Hello everyone, welcome to another quick exercise video. I'm going to do the Skyrise models that I did for YouTube Shorts. So I'm going to recreate that and also announce that the pre-select add-on is now released in my Patreon. You can grab it there, patreon.com/BlenderGappy. You just have to become a free member to be able to download the add-on. Becoming a free member doesn't have any cost. You just sign up for it. Okay, and be sure to stay as a member and not just download the add-on and then cancel your membership. Because in a few days I'll be more active in Patreon by posting high resolution textures like grunge textures, leaves. So I'll be using my cameras. I have purchased like 3 cameras just for this, and also bunch of expensive linear polarizers just for this, just for that. So be sure to stick around, and some of them will, most of them will be free. Some of them will be paid. Of course, the higher number ones. So let's just go to the buildings. And in this video, I'm also going to use pre-select. And you can follow along because now you can have access to the pre-select add-on. Okay, so first off, random slice to create the building. And no preset, just create random. Or press random and then increase the depth. That is our height. The depth is our extrusion depth. And this is also termed as inset depth. So to get rid of the really thin faces, you need to increase the minimum length until you get something like this, a square. And there's a shortcut for maximum length. And you can just push this to get those really squarish buildings. So let's just use random and manually adjust the minimum length so we can get some of those really long buildings. So this is something like 0.12 or 0.1. There we go. And you can use the seed value, the cut seed, to create more a different pattern. So amount, you can increase the amount of buildings. So let's just stick to 100. And margin, outer margin, increase that. And then the inner margin for the streets, for the spaces between the buildings, so we can have like kind of street effects, those. Okay, so, and also have a space between each building so they don't look like like they're fused together. Okay, so thickness is 0.1. So in the next update also, the settings, the use confirm menu is now exposed here rather than preferences. So you can click this and use the random operators. And you will have an OK button here. You won't see, the difference is you won't see the live effect at first. And you have to press OK and then maximize the window here. But once you do that, you can edit the properties here without it disappearing when you move the mouse cursor out of the random panel window, which is different from, you can still open up the redo panel anywhere in the viewport using the F9 hotkey, but if the 3D cursor goes out of the menu space, it disappears, but here it's locked on. So once you press OK, you can then modify the properties and the changes will now be live. Okay, so that's the difference. So I'm quite used to having this turned off because using the F9 hotkey, I've been using Blender for 10 plus years, so using the F9 hotkey is no longer a hassle to me. You can access the use confirm menu from the user preferences of the add-on as well. And you can also toggle it there. But in the next update, this will be exposed here. Okay, so Let's start giving details to the building. So we won't be using all the faces at once because it will create a lag in the operation, and probably we won't get as much detail because of the amount of faces involved in the operation. So what we need to do is actually use um, create the panel effect on certain number of buildings at a time. Like for example, four at a time or five at a time, like that. But in order to combo this with pre-select, we need to go to settings and toggle on clear selection. So every time we use the random operators, it will clear the selection, and then we can start selecting a new faces using the pre-select add-on without actually having to use Control Shift A to deselect the last set of faces we've selected, and using the random panels operator. Okay, so we can do this in edit mode, and we can also do this in object mode using the pre-select add-on. So selecting the islands is using Control Shift F, and selecting only a bunch of faces in a flat area is Shift F. So we're going to use Control Shift F to select all the islands, and it's going to give you a drawing overlay to show you what faces are selected, which is in blue. And if you try and use it on selected face island, it will show you that it will deselect instead and show you those deselected faces in red. So 5 buildings at a time. Random panels, we're going to use 100% square, 100% angle, and increase the resolution to see the effect. And we're going to toggle on even offset, and probably reduce thickness to something like 0.001, and increase the depth so we have something like that. And you can, it's your choice to create random shading for this using this one. Using limit smooth random, and then you can play around with the seed value. This will probably have an additional property in the update, like I will copy the ones that I did in GeoNode, where you can only affect certain percentages of the panel islands using this effect. So it'll be much more controllable. So next set of buildings, and we don't have an OK button, so I'll just press the inset um, option here, and then play around with the seed value, or just go straight to the seed value. Oops, Control Shift F. Okay, we can just continue doing this. So remember that, oh, I was I wasn't increasing the seed value. I was actually modifying the subdivision. Oh my god. Doesn't matter. We're going to dissolve this anyway. Oops. So Control Shift F. So you need to hover the mouse cursor on the face that you want selected. So I'm doing it like this, selecting that face, and thereby selecting all the faces contained in that panel island. So this makes it easier to use the add-on on angular surfaces and also some curved or organic surfaces like cylinder. You can, in order to select the curvature, the rest of the curvature, you can increase the angle threshold in the redo panel of the, oh, yeah, the select link. In the redo panel of the uh, pre-select operator, so for example, Shift F, it has this. You increase the sharpness threshold and it will select more faces based on the sharpness of the edges and the its neighboring faces. And after this, we can just join the geometry together. See, this is just to build you something like an asset you can use over and over again. You can build like 5 of this and then just use a random scatter add-on or a scatter add-on to, oops, this, we're supposed to modify the seed value. Use a scatter add-on to scatter it all over the area of the scene that you want. I think that's it. We didn't miss any, we missed one. I think the streets are gone. Should have made the, but that's okay. So if you want to add more details to the building, you can just pick the object. The pre-select add-on only ray traces the or works on the active object and not the other object in the scene. So for example, this one, press Control Shift A to deselect the faces first, and then you can use the add-on. The in the description of the Patreon post where you can download the add-on, there's a link to the online documentation on how the add-on works. So you can stack the details just like that, which is a great advantage over the modularity of the GeoNode version. This is faster and lighter, but we don't have modularity. Okay, so I think it's an important distinguishing factor between each. Each has its own advantages. We can hide this and select all these meshes and join them. We need to have an active object and join them. And then we'll try and dissolve, limit dissolve. There we go. And look at the faces if they're still the shading errors are too much. We'll probably have to shade auto smooth this and just get rid of the random shading just to make this lighter. Okay, so this works for your scene and even for your game engine because the game engine will probably just triangulate it like this. And but what's this? Um, Did it change the geometry change for the? It's probably something else. Oh yeah, that's something else. Okay, so you can also delete the source mesh, but I'll just keep it for now. So select everything, Shift G, and then press T for the type of the. So for example, if you use the active object is a mesh, if you press Shift G, select similar, and select type, it will press all the mesh type object in the whole scene. Then go to edit mode, press A to select everything, the new, unwrap, and let's just use Q projection. Okay. And before we go to the materials, we're going to assign a random vertex color for this. I've also recreated this in GeoNode in the GeoNode edition of the add-on. But of course, the Python equivalent is much more advanced. But at least we get modularity with the uh, GeoNode edition. Okay, so next part of this is go to shading and then append materials. This will append 7 materials. You can go check out the materials in the online documentation, the add-on. It's in the product. If you bought it from Gumroad and Vendor Market, the link is in the product page and also in the README file of the add-on in the docs folder. If you bought it from somewhere else, then I'm not responsible for the way that they have created the product page for that, because the only way I'm gonna get money is if you bought it from Gumroad and Blender Market. If you bought it from another place, then I won't get the money. Much like any other creators out there. The one that created that deviant site will create the. I will receive the money, not us. Okay, so just a thing to remember. Okay, selecting everything, creative flow, go to assign material, and I'm gonna choose something that has texture, our flow panel soft UV, meaning that it will is the underscore UV means that it's using UV for paneling up UV for the for mapping, not paneling. And if it says underscore object, it means that it's using object mapping. Okay, so I'm going to use or to change the HRI to something else to get a better view of the building. It's just like that. And these are the texture that came with it. I created it using random flow and dribble bake. And just change this to all not all shift A attributes and vertex color. You need to have node wrangler enabled in order for this to show up. So uh, just plug it there. And to modify its intensity, let's go ahead and add another color mix node. Set this to overlay and factor to 1, and then you can use the intensity of the color B, the value of the color B, to adjust the intensity of the vertex color. Then we're going to adjust the size of the texture until we get something like this. Okay, and then we're going to open up the lights. Lights UV means it's using UV mapping. You can tab and go inside and just change it to object mapping. It's easy. You just look at the mapping and just use the object as the connection instead of UV. If you want this to use object mapping, just go in there and change it. The node is pretty easy to understand. Okay, so emission, set this to 20. Now we can see the lights, and let's affect the or change the saturation. And this works by way of the outer scale. So factor for the outer scale. Let's set this to 1. So this is the outer scale. The outer scale is basically the big squares that contains the little squares which are affected by the inner scale. So the outer scale, as you can see, if we adjust that, the squares get bigger, and inner scale, when we adjust that, the squares inside the big squares becomes bigger as well. So The outer scale basically has the same parameters as the inner scale. You can adjust the factor. So these are, for example, the only places that they will affect. And then from this, we adjust the inner scale, factor of the inner scale, to reduce the light that is produced in those inner scale squares. So to make this a lot more prevalent in the mesh, we're now going to increase the outer scale and adjust the inner scale. So that's basically how it works. Okay, so we have the lights, buildings, and it's finished. Just kidding. Okay, our slice one. So this is our base mesh. So Shift H. So another use of the pre-select. So Shift F is the linked flat faces equivalent. Control Shift F is the linked equivalent or selects the entire island. So Control Alt Shift F is the Shift G coplanar option equivalent. So Control Shift F on a face. This increase the threshold to select more faces. Then let's go back to the original and select the object again. So to show this menu, you have to use Alt right click, or it probably depends on your hotkey situation. But basically, probably Alt right click or Alt left click to show this menu. It shows all the object underneath the mouse cursor. So you can select I can select the plain R slice 001 underneath all these randomized meshes. And in that mesh, we have selected the roof, basically the roof of the building. And I'm going to use random cells and pool 100. It means that it's going to create 100 faces and individual depth. And then we can increase the subdivision to make the faces, the extruded faces, thinner or smaller. So let's use 200 pulses just to create some of this, just to break up the shape in the top of the building to create this antenna looking uh, objects. Okay, and just play around with the pulse seed. And it's probably still too big. Just be careful with the cuts as you increase it. Okay, probably just stay around 30. It's just this stupid. My advice, if you're unsure with the subdivision and the pole size and you think it may freeze Blender, save first before attempting to use a higher value. Proxy, pole speed. There we go. Um, Probably still too thin. Too fat. 36. Okay, I think we got it. So for the road, I think we can see the road. I don't know if we can see the road. So let's just remove this and change this to emission so we can see the, let's check if we can see the plane underneath. No, we can. I think some of it is visible. Let's increase this to 100. No, it's no longer visible. change this back to our flow metal. We couldn't make the streets light up. We should have partitioned this at the start, but you know, well, at least you get to see how to create the buildings. So we've lost the, we've actually lost the quad nature of the buildings, but we can re-achieve that using quad slice. I wanted to show you that when using the operators, the operators inherit the material from the source mesh. So you can essentially add up more details to this as long as they're quads. So, but we can still do that because with quad slice, tangent, and link, and make sure this is 0.01. So we have a quadded area. And now we can select that, Control Shift F, and use random panels to it. And let's just use none for the, so there's spiking going on. And we're just going to use split to get rid of that. There we go. So you can essentially add more details to this. As long as you haven't gotten rid of the quad structure using limit dissolve, which I shouldn't have done it at the start. But if you're planning to um, create more details, of course, but you can still use the, you can just use the quad slice for that. So quad slice is not meant to work on whole selections. It's meant to work on a few faces that are in the same plane, like this one, like this selection. They are on the same plane. This is not on the same plane as this, guys. So, but these are. So it's designed to work like that. And also, grid project, they're designed to work on faces that are on the same plane. So don't use it on this kind of selection. It will probably freeze Blender. Okay. So that's how you add the additional detail. And as you can see, some of the UVs have been inherited to the new detail, and also the materials have also been inherited. You can just add more details. So selecting the stub faces here. So there's more detail to actually show the viewer, so you can render this much closer to the camera. Yeah, and I guess that's it for this exercise. So we use random slice and random panels and the pre-select add-on. So again, download the pre-select add-on from my Patreon, patreon.com/blendergappy. It's free, you just have to become a free member. It's free in terms of cash, but there's a bit of a condition, and you just have to become a free member, of course. Which, of course, is another quite strategy to, of course, get some money in the future. But if you want to contribute money, you can do it. That's why I'm going to create, give out really cool textures there in the coming days. Okay, I've been blabbering too much. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, use the comment section below or the links in the description. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.